evening, everyone. If you wouldn't mind taking your seat, we'd like to get started. I just want to make sure we have all our speakers here, so I think we're good. All right. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Dr. Michelle Case, and this is our third annual Women in Leadership Speakers Series. So thank you so much for being here. We have a very exciting night lined up for you, and I have to say, I'm always gently reminded how it truly takes a village to put on an event like this. So there are some people I need to thank, and I certainly want to start with our president, Dr. Matt Thompson. Heartfelt thanks for everything that you do for us, for making room for us at the table, for always being supportive, and for always supporting this event. Thank you. We really appreciate it. To my boss, Damon Kraft. I know he's here. I saw him walk in. I can never see the... Oh, there you are. Thank you. You know, Damon, thank you. You always talk me off the ledge. You've taught me how to try to manage more moving parts and not have a panic attack. I appreciate that. I'm working on being a little bit more calm. Not there yet, but I'm still working on that. But I really appreciate everything that you do just to keep me moving forward and all of your support and your encouragement. Thank you so very, very much. To the committee, oh my gosh. What a group of rock stars, seriously. If you are on the committee, will you please stand up? Really, don't be shy. Your voice matters and all. Stephanie. It truly is an amazing group of women who put this on, and it takes each one of us. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to Paul Green for live streaming this event tonight. Thank you. And also a shout out to Plant Operations for making our gymnasium so beautiful. Thank you very much. And finally, to my colleague, Taylor Schwartz. I know she's around here somewhere too. I just want to thank you for all of your enthusiasm, all of your help, especially over the past couple days, all of your energy, and I'm so glad you're a member of our team. You are truly a blessing. Thank you. And finally, I'd like to do a big shout out to my family because they're on the live stream. Hello. All right. Now, just a couple housekeeping things. Michelle Dolan is right here in front. I just want to let everyone know at 6 minutes, she's going to raise her hand to let folks know we're at 6 minutes. At 8 minutes, she will stand up, and then the speakers will wrap up as quickly as they can. I don't want you to think she's protesting each presentation or anything like that. So I want to share a quote that I thought was appropriate because it's by Taylor Swift. I'm not a huge Swiftie, but I do like Kelsey. So here we go. I want you to know that if you are out there and things are being really hard and you're being really hard on yourself right now for something that has already happened, that is normal. I want you to think that this is what is going to happen from time to time because that's just part of life. No one gets through unscathed. We are all going to have a few scratches on us. But please, please be kind to yourself. Please stand up for yourself because your voice matters. So I am very excited to introduce our first speaker, Mrs. Janelle Heimer. Janelle is a Kansas Wesleyan graduate and nursing leader. She is passionate about amplifying the voices of women leaders. Raised in rural Saline County, she graduated with a bachelor's of nursing from Kansas Wesleyan in 2010, and then ventured out to gain diverse healthcare experience across the states. In 2021, she returned to Salina, equipped with a master's degree in nursing and focused on leadership and management. Janelle is currently leading the outreach department at Salina Family Healthcare Center, revolutionizing healthcare accessibility for the underserved populations within the county's only mobile medical unit. As a participant in the Leadership Salina class of 2021, couple other participants over here, apparently. She was honored as the Emerging Leader by the Women of Achievement YW Legacy Fund in 2023. Janelle invites you to join her in her curiosity and advocacy for causes near and dear to her heart. Please help me welcome Janelle.
You are a terrible manager. You are never going to make it as a leader, and when you graduate from school and you need a new job, don't put me down as a reference because I will not give you a good one. At some point in our lives, we've all heard some version of the same phrase that was said to me, that you're not good enough, you're never going to make it, and that I do not support you. The most important voice in that moment is yours. Your voice matters. It matters what you tell your brain. It matters what you tell your heart. You know your values, passions, and differences you want to make in your family, in your career, and in your community. I'm from around here. I grew up in Assyria, Kansas. I went to southeast of Saline High School, and then I graduated from Kansas Wesleyan with my nursing degree. As soon as I did that, I said, peace, Kansas, I'm out. And for the next 10-ish years, I lived in 2 different states, and I worked across multiple different healthcare systems, and I served on multiple medical mission trips to different countries. And I met the coolest people who did not look, act, think, or talk like I did. And I brought those experiences and those relationships back with me to Kansas in 2021 when I graduated with my master's in nursing in leadership and management. Salina Family Healthcare Center hired me as a temporary position as COVID-19 project manager. My role was to help facilitate the mass COVID vaccination clinics that were held at the old JCPenney Center. And in a really cool collaboration between Salina Family Healthcare Center, Saline County Health Department, and Salina Regional Health Center, we provided over 25,000 vaccines in a matter of a few months. Once those mass vaccination sites began to phase out, I began focusing on who in our community did not have access to that vaccine if they wanted one. And I started building relationships with community leaders and local cultural champions to provide pop-up clinics pretty much everywhere. 6 months into starting at Salina Family Healthcare, they offered me a permanent position at the company. They asked if I would be interested in helping develop and supervise a new outreach department. Of course, I said yes. They hired a nurse to join my team, and we started serving underserved and rural populations with nurse-led clinics. It's still the pandemic, so one of our focuses was getting free at-home COVID tests out to the community. So I organized this event, and it was out at the Ace Hardware store parking lot. And I thought, okay, we'll have a drive-through, people can just drive through, pick them up. We have several hundred tests. I sent a team of 2 to the parking lot to begin the event. I get a call 15 minutes before the event started. Janelle, there's still a line of cars and we've already run out of COVID tests. I'm like, oh, well, just let the next couple of vehicles know that you've run out and then go ahead and leave. They'll get the idea that we've run out. About 15 minutes later, I got a call from my direct supervisor, Ann File, our chief operating officer at Salina Family Healthcare Center, and she says, Janelle, I just got off the phone with the Salina Police Department. They want to know what's going on over at the Ace Hardware parking lot. I said, oh, well, the team's already gone. I have no idea why the police are there, so let me drive over there and find out. And I got over there, the parking lot was full to the point where there's so many vehicles crammed in there that people couldn't get out. People were getting out of their cars, they were starting to fight, Broadway was blocked up. I ran over to a police officer and I was like, listen, this is what we did, we're at a test, we just need to tell people that they just need to go, like it's over. And I called Michelle, my friend over at Saline County Emergency Management, and I said, Michelle, I need a street sign out here in the parking lot to let the cars on Broadway know there are no more COVID tests. And I learned that I had organized an event that caused traffic block up from State and Broadway all the way down to Crawford to the interstate. I planned an event that affected interstate traffic. And guess what? My 6-month supervisory role review was scheduled the next day. And I went into Ann's office and I'm like, telling myself, I'm like, this is gonna be okay. And I sat down and she goes, Janelle, ask me 2 questions. What did we learn yesterday? And what are we gonna do different next time? And I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then she looks at me and she goes, Janelle, you are doing a great job. What other ideas do you have? And how can I support you? When you are in the role of leading others, whether formal or informal, your voice matters. It matters that you are forgiving, that you are encouraging, and that you are supporting those who look up to you. And with that leadership support, the outreach department has continued to grow. We have 3 nursing staff providing monthly nurse-led clinics in places like Salina Rescue Mission, the Ashby House, the library, and some senior centers. At one point, Ann asked me, do we need to get another company vehicle for your department? And I paused just so slightly and said, can we get a mobile medical unit? I've done some research, and they've been really successful in bigger cities, and I believe they could really increase access to healthcare for our rural, our working, and our at-risk populations in our area. We can call it healthcare on wheels. There were a lot of conversations. This was a very different vehicle than a car or a van that Ann was originally imagining. And we did get Saline County's first mobile medical unit, fully equipped with a triage and lab draw station, medication fridge, bathroom, private exam room, and it's ADA accessible. You may have seen it in the community over the last year, as we've welcomed anyone who would like to tour the inside at community events like downtown trick-or-treating and the Parade of Lights. I'm very excited to announce also today that last week we added a nurse practitioner to our outreach team. With her, we can greatly expand the care that we provide on that mobile medical unit. Our Healthcare on Wheels is currently partnered with Central Kansas Mental Health, and beginning Monday, we are piloting a mobile unit as an urgent care in the parking lot of Central High School for Salina Public Schools. For those parents who aren't sure if their kiddo is sick with strep or if they're just avoiding that test, they can come be seen on our Healthcare on Wheels and we'll get a strep test before school even starts. When it comes to sharing your ideas to make change, your voice matters. When they look at you funny, say it's weird or crazy, that only means that they've never heard it before. Be brave and use your voice to share your ideas to make a difference. If I had listened to that first person I told you about, I may not be where I am today. Luckily, I had a leader who encouraged me to grow, to lead, and to share my ideas for healthcare beyond the clinic walls, for our Salina community and beyond. Your voice matters.
Thank you, Janelle. That was fabulous. Next, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Bridget Weiser. Bridget is the Kansas Wesleyan Vice President for Student and Community Engagement. She has been with the university since 2003, serving in different capacities across multiple departments. Under her leadership, the university has expanded campus ministry offerings, developed several key community partnerships, and enhanced the campus safety program. She has also had a leadership role in the Beaver Dining Hall and the Coyote Village projects, as well as serving the lead on all diversity equity, and inclusion initiatives. Prior to joining Kansas Wesleyan, Bridget was at Fort Hays State University, working in the campus recreation and intramurals department. Sorry. She attained, so that was all of it. Any challenge that you had, I'm taking it for you right now, sister. I got you. She obtained her bachelor's degree and master's degree from Fort Hays University. Please help me welcome Bridget Weiser.
Thank you, Michelle. As Michelle said, my name is Bridget Weiser, and I proudly serve as the Vice President for Student and Community Engagement here. I've been here since 2003 and have advanced my career through various leadership roles. Also, in my spare time, I'm a real estate agent with Salina Homes. But beyond titles and positions, I'm here tonight to share a journey of finding my voice amidst challenges, setbacks, and truly embracing my authentic self. There will be pieces to my journey that I have not allowed myself to ever share publicly until tonight. So I thank you for giving me the space to be vulnerable with you all. As leaders, it's easy to fall into the trap of portraying an image of perfection, as if our lives are seamless and our paths to success were effortless. However, the reality is quite different. I firmly believe that being authentic and relatable are essential traits for leaders to connect with others on a deeper level, allowing others to see the real person behind the title. Relationships matter, and I believe one of my strengths is finding a way to connect with almost anyone because I can embrace the art of listening. Finding your voice, at times, might not even involve speaking at all. It's about taking the time to truly listen and hear what others are saying. For me, finding my voice wasn't a result of climbing the career ladder or achieving external success. It came during periods of great adversity. I found it at rock bottom. I realized the importance of embracing my truth, even when it was uncomfortable and scared me. Growing up, I faced a profound loss that would shape my life forever. The passing of my mother as a very young child left me navigating the world with a sense of insecurity as I grew up. I became accustomed to bottling up my emotions, keeping my struggles hidden, not asking for help, believing that was all the norm. This experience shaped me into a shy and guarded individual, afraid of vulnerability, afraid of not being perfect, and afraid that people I loved would be taken from me. But it was through facing my deepest fears and confronting my past traumas that I began to realize I had a voice. I found strength in acknowledging my insecurities and embracing my imperfections, fueled by the realization that my experiences, both positive and negative, were significant in who I am today. The piece in my journey that truly left me at rock bottom and that I haven't shared public before involved confronting and leaving a toxic, emotionally and physically abusive relationship that had me feeling powerless, ashamed, and a shell of myself and who I had been. It took immense courage to acknowledge the abuse and finally take a stand for myself. I didn't know how to navigate through this because I was embarrassed that I allowed this to happen to myself. My main worries through this: if anyone knew what happened, what were they going to think of me? I consider myself a smart, strong person, so how did I not see it coming? Or how did I not stop it? It turns out it wasn't about me. I didn't do this to myself. That was on the other person. Through this experience, I discovered the true meaning of strength and resilience. I realized that I wasn't defined by my past mistakes or the actions of others. Instead, I found empowerment in reclaiming my narrative and forging a path towards healing and self-love. I also found out that everyone who is truly in my corner had zero judgment towards me, and their support was stronger than I ever imagined. When I realized all this is truly when I moved my life forward for me and no one else. All the advice I can give is don't be afraid to leave a situation that deep down you know isn't good for you. This goes for men or women. we can all find ourselves in situations that we don't know how to get out of. I know that advice seems easier said than done, but looking back, once you and only you make that decision, the rest falls into place. The first step forward is the hardest, but then it opens you up into a person or situation that you never knew was possible. It was through this time that I found new passions in real estate and live music, with both have led me to a lot of opportunities and memories that are irreplaceable. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that failure is not something to be feared, but rather embraced as an opportunity for growth. This is something I must remind myself almost daily, as I tend to shut down at the mere thought of failure, paralyzed by the fear of judgment and rejection. However, I discovered that it's during our darkest moments that we truly learn about ourselves and our capabilities. Here are some steps I took that I want to share if you're finding yourself in a season of life that you don't know how to navigate. It's essential to engage in self-reflection regularly. Take the time to understand your values, passions, and beliefs. I spend time daily with a gratitude journal because I know that no matter what happens in my day, I can find one piece out of my day that I'm truly grateful for. It wasn't until I started doing this that I noticed a mind shift in a lot of situations. Embrace being vulnerable. It's okay to admit when you don't have all the answers or when you're struggling. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create opportunities for deeper connections and more authentic relationships. Take time to truly get to know people. As I said, relationships truly do matter. Surround yourself with a supportive community. Seek out mentors, friends, or colleagues who uplift and encourage you. This is very important to have. I will share with you that I actually turned down the opportunity to speak tonight when I was first asked because some of those insecurities crept in and I didn't feel my voice was ready to be heard. I said, maybe next year. But then someone in my circle challenged me and basically said, why not now? And that reminded me that I needed to not let my past experience and doubt work its way back in and hold me back. I needed that person to call me out and remind me to remain authentic to my present and future, not my past. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself, especially during times of failure. Remember that setbacks are a natural part of the journey and they do not define your worth or potential. Treat yourself with the same level of kindness and understanding that you would offer a dear friend. I have heard this over and over from my circle through the years, and it's so true. Words matter, and how you speak to yourself matters even more. Finding my voice wasn't a linear journey. It's been messy, complicated, and filled with moments of doubt and uncertainty. I discovered that authenticity is not about being the loudest in the room, but rather having the courage to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, as I am positive mine has tonight. I wouldn't have the position I have today if I hadn't gone through these experiences. I know I am stronger for it. As leaders, we have a responsibility to create spaces where everyone feels valued and heard. It's not about having all the answers or pretending to be foolproof. It's about listening with empathy, supporting one another through the highs and the lows. Again, our words matter, and we need to remember to be kind because we never know what someone is going through. I think this is what led me to having a change in opportunity last year to shift my role at Kansas Wesleyan University. I have shifted from a role that was almost entirely student-facing to a role that explores many avenues that's taken me out of my comfort zone. In my new role, one aspect is leading efforts around diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have learned the importance of listening to diverse perspectives and amplifying voices that are often unheard. In this role, I cannot speak to every demographic represented, but what I can do and have done is listen and learn. I can attest to what it means to be a woman in leadership, but I can't and won't express that I know what it means to be any demographic that I can't truly represent. There isn't one sole person that can represent every demographic, and that's why it's important to me it's a group effort and everyone is present at the table to set the standard by how a culture is changed. In closing, I encourage each of you to embrace your unique voice and lead with authenticity. Your voice and experiences matter, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. I want to leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou that has guided me through my journey. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it. Thank you.
Nice job, Bridget. Thank you so much. I would have given you a hug, but you ran off the stage. No, you did great. You were wonderful. Our next speaker is Angie Lastly. Angie is a native of Salina and began her YMCA career while in high school. In 2012, Angie returned to Salina after working for the Ys in Wichita, Kansas, Indianapolis, Indiana, Lexington, Kentucky, and Lexington, Kentucky. She served as the school age director for the year, human resources and development for a short time, and then the interim CEO in fall 2013. She was officially selected to lead the Y in April 2014 as the 16th president and chief executive director, becoming the first female in this role. Woo, sweet. Angie currently serves as a national council member for NAYDO, which is Northern America YMCA Development Organization that focuses on fundraising for the YMCAs, as well as, and she's a member of the YUSA Training and Development Advisory Council. She is a member of the Rotary and Noon Network Ambucks. With her husband Todd, they enjoy traveling and spending time with their grown children and 2 grandsons. Please help me welcome Angie Lastly.
Thank you, Michelle. I should have remembered what bio I turned in because you just took my whole speech. So, no, just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And I want to start by sharing some thanks, because I would not be here without some of the people that are in this room, because they're members of my circle, members of the community, members of our team, any employee who's ever worked for the YMCA before my tenure or in the last 10 years that I've been here. Thank you, because without you, I would not be able to be up here, so I want to thank you for that. A couple of things I want to share with you tonight. When we got the topic of Your Voice Matters, I was trying to figure out what would resonate most with the diverse audience of students, community leaders, friends, and family. So you heard my story, and I do share, I grew up at the YMCA here in Salina. I like to joke that I broke a lot of child labor laws because my mom worked there and she put me to work at a very young age. I think that was before child labor laws were really a thing. But when I could get my first paycheck, that was my job at the Salina YMCA. And so fortunate to work for an organization that as I grew, not through high school, through college, that I was able to continue that path. And for many of you, if you're starting out, if you're still in school here at Kansas Wesleyan and you have a path and you have kind of a straight vision of what you think your life is going to look like, my path started out straight, but very quickly became a cartoon from the family circus of a little boy that goes around in circles and up and down. There's been a lot of path changes in my life that I think may resonate with a few of you. So when I left Salina, my sophomore year of college to move to Wichita State, like Janelle, I was like, I'm out, never moving back to Salina, looking for the big city, right? And some really unique things happened for me. One, I was working for the Y in Wichita. I met my husband there, and I was able to try a lot of different things, but like Janelle, I had a supervisor that said, you're not gonna make it. This isn't the path. You need to go down this road. You're not gonna make it in operations. And I used that to drive my motivation for what I wanted to do. And nobody was going to tell me I couldn't do something, because that just doesn't work in my world. So thankfully I was able to start a family with Todd, had to quit college during that time, so my path changed. A few years later, fast forward, I was able to go back to school as a returning adult and get my degrees because I knew that was important for me to progress in whatever field I wanted to do. Changed my major 5 times, had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I still don't know some days, just to be completely transparent with you. But the important thing for that is I was willing to shift and take a road less traveled and not having any idea where I was going to go. So fast forward 8 or 9 years, my husband comes home and he says, I went to work this morning and they said the company is closing, no notice, I'm out of a job. Path change, right? Rocked our world. So thankfully, after some time, he was hired for a company which took us to Indianapolis, Indiana, and we moved and started our life over again. 3 or 4 years later, he comes home and he says, they're relocating me to Lexington, Kentucky. None of these were our choices, right? We had to deal with the cards that were dealt, so path change. We moved to Lexington, Kentucky. Through this time, I was fortunate to be able to continue my work with different YMCAs, and then our world got rocked again. I found out that I was expecting, a little older than I wanted to be, having a brand new baby. Path change. 7 weeks after our son was born, we had to say goodbye. Path change. Right? So life deals a lot of stuff, and having to figure out what you're going to do with that, it brought us back to Kansas, because after about a year of that, we realized we needed our family. Our family was back here, and that's what we needed at the time. I was at rock bottom, severely depressed, really bad thoughts, heavily medicated, and still trying to work, still try to be a mom, still try to be a wife, and I wasn't doing any of those things well. So moving back to Salina was a new change for us, and it gave us the flexibility of being around our family at some of the times that we needed it the most. Coming back to the Salina Y, when Michelle shared that I was the school-age director, so not my cup of tea, okay? Licensed childcare, it's a hard road to take. So after about a year, I knew I was not in the right seat on the bus. And sometimes that's a really hard realization to come to, because you're like, well, what do I do if I don't want to do this? I have no idea what direction I want to go. So I had that conversation with my supervisor and said, I'm not in the right seat. Thankfully at the Y, we had a lot of different seats. And he knew that our HR director was leaving, so he asked me to step into that role. That was one of my degrees, and I'm like, absolutely, I'm in. 3 to 4 weeks later, literally 3 to 4 weeks later, he says, we're getting ready to do a $3.5–4 million capital campaign. Do you want to help us? I've never asked anybody for more than $1,000, but sure, I'll do it. And then fast forward 4 or 5 more weeks, and then the board called and said, Angie, we want you to step in as the interim CEO, because we're making a change. Scared to death. Path change. The first few months were the hardest. I had a gentleman come up to me while standing in the lobby of the Y, pretty prominent community member, look me in the eye in a room full of people and say, you can't lead the Y because you're a female, and it's the Young Men's Christian Association. My first annual evaluation, I was knocked off points on one of my scores because I had too many female on my staff. So I asked, did my predecessor get that knocked off? Because I inherited all of this team. Oh, no, he didn't. Well, guess what? Okay, so I share these things for a couple of reasons, because when you think about your voice matters, it's some of the components of making sure that you are heard and that you're sharing what's important to you. And you share with people that maybe have gone through similar situations. You find friends and peers and colleagues in a lot of different areas. There's 3 things that I learned in my career that people have shared with me that I want to share with you that have kind of resonated with me. One is you cannot step on people's feet that aren't moving. Because I used to say, well, I don't want to step on their toes. And he said, you cannot step on people's feet if they're not moving. So make sure to all of us that our feet are always moving, right? Number 2, and I'll never forget this, one of our volunteers came up to me and said, Angie, how you doing? And I said, oh my gosh, John, I got so many people mad at me right now for some of the changes I'm wanting to make. And he said, that's good. And I'm a people pleaser sometimes. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, if you're not making somebody mad, you're not doing your job. because that means you're not doing anything and you're not going to be able to make everybody happy. And the third thing that resonates with me is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen twice as much as we speak. And so to Bridget's point, are we listening to understand or are we listening to respond? So which leads into the Your Voice Matters tie-in for me, and a couple of things that I just want to leave saying is, your voice matters because the words you say matter. You can heal or you can hurt. Which do you choose? Your voice matters because of where you say it. Not just literally where you're physically at the time that you say something in front of a large crowd, one-on-one, whatever that looks like, but where are you at mentally and emotionally and spiritually when you say it? You can heal or you can hurt. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is your voice matters because we matter. You matter, I matter, and together as a collective whole, we can do great things and just make sure your voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. That was wonderful. Thank you. Next up, we have Amy June Briesman. Amy June is an artist, activist, and seed keeper behind Blue Jacket Handcraft and Good Way Farm in Lawrence, Kansas. Amy June also serves as the Land Relations Specialist at the Land Institute outside of Salina, Kansas. She was born and raised in Washington, D.C., and made a new home in Kansas in 2023. While rooted heavily in photography, she enjoys multidisciplinary approaches to applied research and her craft. Her work is largely informed by her mixed heritage as an enrolled member of the Eastern Shawnee Nation of Oklahoma, and she is a part of the queer community. She addresses themes of racial and social justice, indigenous self-determination, and food sovereignty through her photography and food work. Please help me welcome Amy June.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being here. It is my honor to join you all as a guest on Kaw, Pawnee, and Osage homelands. I give gratitude to Kansas Wesleyan for hosting me, and especially to Sheila Shellberg for the kind invitation. I join you all tonight with the privilege of a full heart and a full stomach. Before I begin, I hope you will join me in a brief moment of silence, acknowledging the ongoing devastation in communities like Palestine, Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Haiti, and others which face ongoing settler and colonial violence around the world. Thank you. When I was asked some months ago to speak on finding my voice as a leader, I first questioned whether I am in fact a leader at all. I settled that yes, I am, but only because leadership can be understood as a relational position, as in who you are to other people, projects, organizations, and beings. So allow me to introduce to you where I come from and to who I am responsible. I was born to a European father and a Native American mother in Maryland in the spring of 1991. I am an enrolled citizen of the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, though I grew up in an environment far removed from my homelands or my resettlement lands. I was raised in a blue-collar, working-class family, and a 7-day work week was ingrained from a young age. I was the first person in my family to earn a degree. At age 11, I fell into a subculture called straight edge. For those unfamiliar, this is a subgenre of punk music that is bound by a commitment to sobriety. Much of the rest of my life would be defined by this and other non-normative communities of which I would be a part. I would go on to get a 4-year degree in the fine arts in Washington, D.C., where I was steeped even further in do-it-yourself and punk subcultures and organizing like self-publishing fairs or zine fests as we know them, group art shows, social justice fundraisers, and more. I didn't have the language for it at the time, but we were doing mutual aid in the age before GoFundMe and community fridges. In punk and DIY, I discovered my queer community. In turn, in my queer community, I found my political home. In my organizing work, I found reproductive justice. Healthcare justice led me to harm reduction work, which led me to food sovereignty, and in food sovereignty, I found agriculture. Many of these subcultures and communities largely resist academic definition or study, but are all tethered together by countercultural ideas and commitments. In 2023, I relocated from my home of nearly a decade in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to Lawrence, Kansas. Today, I serve as the land relations specialist at the Land Institute here in Salina, Kansas, where I help to pursue more just perennial futures. I also co-founded Goodway Farm, where we produce food and seed at a human scale. This project seeks to rekindle the gift and solidarity economies which defined pre-colonial and pre-capitalist lifeways. I share all of this with you today to illustrate the communities who have held, shaped, destroyed, rebuilt, and tended to me as I have navigated finding myself in this world. I have found my voice through the subcultures that have accepted me, and perhaps more notably, those which have rejected me. In a recent discussion, Pyramid Lake Paiute artist Greg Deal shared his experiences with punk, citing that subcultures give us permission to be different. One of the more interesting social dynamics of subcultures is that they are not monolithic. By engaging in these communities, although we enter into a sort of social contract based on similarity, we inherently bring a myriad of differences. It is through that difference that we find what sets us apart, gives us agency, and illuminates pathways. Some of my best friends, guides, and examples of thoughtful leadership have been of a very different lived experience than me. Black women, trans women, women of Jewish and Arab and Asian descent, whose difference has taught me about coalition building. I find that the most brilliant minds in our society are often those who are most marginalized and policed. I owe a massive debt of gratitude to the racialized and gender-expansive bodies that have made themselves vulnerable to teach my community's lessons that needed to be learned. I would be remiss in this moment not to speak the name of my best friend, Joan Mi-O, into this room when talking about finding my voice. This Saturday will mark the 3rd anniversary of her untimely death. Joan was my teacher for many of the things that I now know about finding your people and getting free. Whew, sorry. In addition to our human relations, we have the rest of the world to consider. Perhaps opening this talk with so much discussion of my human community risks reproduction of human supremacy, but more than human relations can be just as or more informative. I used to have an idea that I would have a map up, but we'll skip that part. Here in Salina, we are defined by our relationship to the Flint Hills, the Tallgrass Prairie, the Smoky Hill River. We are immersed in landscapes which have co-evolved with bison, or more recently, cattle. We are necessarily in relationship with fire, be that cultural fire, prescribed fire, or wildfire. The context of this place matters because it raises questions of access to land, to water, to food, to housing. Where we call home and the more than human communities that we share it with inform the pathways that we see as important or as worthy. When I think of ways to encourage others to find their voice, I believe all you need to do is look around you. Perhaps I have a leg up in this, having been trained as a photographer. I sometimes consider myself a professional noticer. But take stock of the human communities of which you are a part, the plant and animal communities which nurture and sustain your life, and the landscape that cradles you. You will learn something about yourself, perhaps be changed by it, and find your place and path. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy June. That was great. Next up is Dr. Pam Davis. Dr. Davis is a diagnostic radiologist. She is affiliated with the Salina Regional Health Center and several regional medical facilities. She continues a family tradition of service to Kansas Wesleyan's board, following her brother, Dr. Mace Braxton Jr., who served as a trustee from 1999 until his death in 2005. Dr. Davis brings with her a deep commitment to serving her community. Dr. Davis received her medical degree from Howard University, College of Medicine. Please help me welcome Dr. Davis.
Well, thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to have this conversation with you all about Your Voice Matters. I'm a physician here in Salina. I work as a radiologist with United Radiology Group at Salina Regional Healthcare Center and several other smaller hospitals in the Sunflower Network. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. My husband and I moved here 25 years ago. We raised our children here and have lived a pretty wonderful life. I am almost 66 years old. That sounds really old, doesn't it? Well, actually, I'm just getting started. But approximately 60 years ago, I was chosen to give a short speech at my elementary school when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was super excited to give this speech. I practiced and practiced. And by the way, this wasn't just any school. My elementary school had a bunch of famous people's kids in it, like Tina Turner and Ray Charles and Berry Gordy, to name a few. Well, when I was ready, and which one do I push? This one, I guess. Okay. But when the principal introduced me, I tried to open my mouth and nothing came out. This was my first encounter with stage fright. It was paralyzing, and literally I lost my voice and never got back on stage again until today, thanks to all of you. Well, ironically, of course, I'm here to talk about how much our voices matter, how much your voice matters, how much the world needs to hear your voice and what you have to say. Remember, God spoke the world into existence. His words are very powerful. We were made from his words, and we were all made in the image of God, so our words are also very powerful. God created us to make the world a better place for everyone. So first I'm going to show you how I found my voice, then I'm going to tell you how to find your voice, and then I'm going to discuss the responsibilities that come with using your voice. Well, the day that I lost my voice, I became very fearful of speaking up because I feared that people would think bad things about me due to that one unfortunate experience. When negative forces stop us from speaking up, what are we doing? We're denying the very powerful spirit that God put in us. So how did I overcome this negative self-image and learn who I really am and what I had to say? Well, little by little, I have been finding a way to share my voice again. Initially, I began sharing my thoughts and opinions on a small scale as a wife and a mother, as a friend, an aunt, a sister. And when I became a physician, I started sharing my voice through my job as a physician and teacher. Then I started sharing my voice in church and as a part of various community programs and committees, and also as a Kansas Wesleyan board member. I also edit every public address that my husband gives, so I speak through him too. But you don't have to be on stage to make a difference in this world. You have to have courage and speak up and stand up for good and object to evil. I also took singing lessons, which I found was very instrumental in helping me find my voice, because it helps you to realize that voice is breath, and breath is life, which not only connects you with the message that you are sharing, but also connects you with every single person in the room that you are sharing that message with. This made me realize that your voice can be used as an instrument for change. So this is how I found my voice. So how do you find your voice? Well, every one of us is unique. God made each and every one of us. None of us are the same. God made each of us with special talents that we are supposed to use to navigate this world. So first, you must know who you are and know what you love to do. Typically, that resonates with talents that God gave you. Your talents make you the unique piece of the puzzle that you bring to the picture of life. The only way to do this is to be the authentic you that God made, not someone that your friends think you should be or some influencer on the internet thinks you should be. Deep down inside, you know who you are. You know what your talents are because God whispered them to you from time to time. Some people know their talents immediately when they're a little kid, like when you know you want to be a teacher or an astronaut or a doctor or a fireman. But other people go through a series of character-defining struggles to discover their talents and don't really figure that out until they're all grown up. But either way, it doesn't matter. Once you find it, you will know where you fit into God's plan for this world, and you will find your unique voice and let your light shine. When you let your light shine, you become a spark that can light a fire that can spread throughout the world. But any fireman can tell you that a fire is very powerful. It's a powerful force that must be treated with respect and responsibility. Once you know your talents, you must respectfully develop and grow your talents by supplementing them with knowledge and training, which often means attending an institution of higher learning like Kansas Wesleyan, a trade school, internship, apprenticeship, etc. Once you have developed your talents, you should responsibly share your gifts with the world, and when your voice lines up with the talents that God has given you and entrusted you with, you will be a true blessing to others. So I've told you how I found my voice. I've told you how to try to find your voice, and we have discussed the responsibilities that come with using your voice. God has given each of us a gift that we must use to be a blessing to others. That is our charge here on this earth. Do you know what your gift is? Do you know what your talents are? You have to figure that out and use it for good. Don't be afraid to speak up, for God so loved the world that he sent his only Son to save you and me, and he stood up for us, so we must stand up for ourselves and our community and help each other make this world a better place for all.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. That was well worth the 60-year wait. Thank you. We are going to take a 10-minute intermission, and the ladies' bathroom is out this door to your left, and the men's restroom is on this side. Please feel free to stand up and stretch, and we'll get started again shortly. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If everyone could please take their seats. Our next two presenters are very, very special to me, as they are two of our Kansas Wesleyan students, and they will be presenting together. Guthrie Birch is a third year, she's in her third year at Kansas Wesleyan, and she will be graduating in a few weeks with her degree in marketing communications and a minor in computer studies. Guthrie is a member of the Kansas Wesleyan DECA team. She is a marketing intern at Bennington State Bank, and she also works a couple gigs on the side, including dog grooming, pet sitting, and working at a local boutique in Lindsborg. She is involved in choir, chorale, and theater, and previously she was a competitive cheerleader. Guthrie is pet mom to Calamity, Roy, and Clementine. And her partner, Kyla Kind Olson, is also a third-year Kansas Wesleyan student who will be graduating in a few weeks with her degree in business management. Kyla is also a member of the Kansas Wesleyan DECA team. She works as a teller, guess where? Bennington State Bank, and is also a server at Blue Sky Brewery. She also was previously a competitive cheerleader. Kyla is dog mom to Sage. Please help me welcome Guthrie and Kyla.
Hello, everybody. I am Guthrie Birch. And I'm Kyla Olson. And we are so grateful for the opportunity to present and speak with you all today. We hope to give you a little bit of insight on who we are and how we found our voices, our silliness, and our attitudes.
So thank you, Dr. Case, for introducing us, first of all. Fair warning, we are yappers, and whenever we get carried away, we always say, da-da-da-da-da, which in turn means etc., to wrap up our thoughts. So the first person we wanted to speak to you guys about today and who influenced us was our older brothers. So my older brother, Cody, he taught me really how to set boundaries for myself and how to stand up for myself and kind of say what I mean and not sugarcoat things. But this came in trouble when I was little, and being able to set these boundaries and stand up for myself, it was very hard for me to apologize. So my brother, he really did teach me how to apologize. He always wanted the best for me, and this is how he taught me, stand up for yourself, say what you mean, and be that leader, be that independent person. He's taught me this through many interactions throughout our childhood, whether we were riding around the farm in our four-wheelers, we were going fishing, setting traps, etc. He taught me how to really be myself and set these boundaries.
So my older brother, Cordell, is actually 9 years older than me, and despite this age difference, he was my very first best friend and is my best friend to this day. He has taught me to be adventurous, and I was always trying to keep up. I was always running around behind him as a 5-6-year-old while he was in high school, and we were hunting, fishing, checking traps, all the same stuff Kyla did with her brother. One of our favorite stories in my family is I was little and we caught this big fish, and I was probably 5, and I was holding this fish and having all these issues, and he was like, no, Guthrie, hold it like this. And I said, I'm just a girl, because I wasn't really interested in holding it the way he wanted me to, and I thought it was kind of gross. Well, our brothers taught us that we aren't just girls. They proved to us we can do anything boys can do because we did it all with them. They showed us that they were our best friends, they gave us our love for the outdoors, they taught us to be ourselves, and they were our biggest supporters.
The next person that we want to talk to you guys about today is our dads. My dad's name is Mark. He's here tonight. Thank you for coming. He grew up as a farm kid, and he thought he was going to be, a farmer for the rest of his life. That was something, he really enjoyed, but he took a very large risk, and he actually ended up owning his own business successfully for over 25 years now. He taught me, while you're young, take these risks. Be adventurous. Have fun with it, because, these risks will be rewarding someday, or maybe not, but you're young enough to learn that. And through these risks, he's taught me not all situations are so serious, that you can have fun in situations much like this. But he's always made something out of nothing. And growing up, we would always kid around. He'd always be like, come here, come look at this, come look what I bought. The next big invention, I made it. We'd always be like, no, Dad, no, Mark, we don't need to see it. But he'd be like, no, this is good. And he'd always teach me, make that something out of nothing, be business-minded, take those risks, and enjoy your life.
So I want to talk about my dad, Scott. He is also very business-minded. He worked at Cargill for nearly 40 years. He was very logical and also straightforward, which isn't always taken in the best way, but ultimately it's the best way to get things done and be the most efficient in the workplace. He also gave me my work ethic. So as you heard, I have a lot of jobs, and I really enjoy all my jobs, and I truly think that I got that from him. He taught me to manage my money as well. He was the biggest cheapskate, wrapping duct tape around everything, and he really told me how to pinch every penny and make the most out of every dollar. The next person we want to talk about is our moms and how they taught us independence. So my mom, Kimberly, taught me to be unique and never try to be like everyone else, to blaze your own trail, and she was truly my best friend. I call her and text her all the time, and she thinks I'm annoying, but I need her. So she gave me my love for hair and makeup and clothing and all the girly stuff, but also all the outdoor stuff, dogs and horses, and she truly taught me that I can be a tomboy and a girly girl all at the same time. I can be feminine, but I can also play in the dirt.
My mom's name is Marcia. She always says Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. She's also very independent and is a strong, loving woman. Throughout all of the sports that I was in growing up, she traveled with me everywhere, no matter where it was. And she always pushed me in each of these sports and put me in that leadership role, told me with hard work and perseverance, you can get through anything and you can be that leader if you choose to be. She's always my best friend, and she's taught me so many things. She's taught me to take care of myself before I can take care of others, but always help whenever I can. She's very fun. As I mentioned, she's very adventurous, always down for whatever shenanigans I come up with, and she's always there right beside me. The biggest thing that my mom has taught me is something that took me a very long time to understand and a lot of maturing to understand is that jealousy shows that people love you, they're just scared to admit it. And coming from a daughter and a woman, I'm sure a lot of us understand here tonight. But with all of the things that our mothers taught us, and like many of the moms here tonight, you should know that we never fought with our mothers and that we were always perfect angels.
Most definitely, always perfect. The next people we want to talk about is our professors. So all of our business professors at Kansas Wesleyan University have taught us so much during our time here. Dr. Case and Professor Schwartz taught us real business skills that we were able to apply by working with nonprofits from all over Salina. Dr. Petak has given us the confidence and unmatched business skills through DECA. She has also taught us life skills like communication, using your resources, and caring for others. Shout out to her beautiful baby girl, Penny Petak.
The next people we want to talk about is actually our coworkers. So something that every best friend wishes and dreams of is that they can work at the same company as each other, and we just got lucky enough that we did. With so many powerful women around us, we have gained so much knowledge about how a company should treat their employees and how essential company culture is within a company. With many laughs, creativity, regulars, and connections, the Bennington State Bank has provided us another family to grow within. Thank you, Carolyn and my Jessie, for being great role models. The next person that I want to talk about is somebody who has really impacted my life within these past 3 years and has truly made me into the woman I am right now and today. She's taught me how to be myself and push for whatever I want. No matter how busy, she will always be there for me. I'm so glad I took a chance on this person. She taught me how to always have fun in every situation, to not think twice and just do. That any conversation can lead to giggles for hours. We always have each other, and that is good enough for us. This person to me is my best friend, Guth.
From the first moment that I met my best friend, she taught me to be outgoing and take chances. She takes on every day with poise and a positive attitude. She's taught me to go with the flow and be laid back, and that I can talk to anybody. We love each other, and we have really grown to know each other through these 3 years. She's fun-loving, hysterical, and straight out of the sticks, just like me. We love all the same outdoor activities and can talk with each other for hours about our futures and all our plans. We have big dreams, and we want to watch each other succeed so much throughout the rest of our lives. Of course, my best friend is Miss Kai Kai. Thank you all so much for your time. Da 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 da.
Nice job, ladies. Nice job. Great job, Guthrie and Kyla. Thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. Our next speaker is Amy Shoemaker. Amy utilizes her business experience in human resources and training to support people's growth at Great Plains Manufacturing. During her 5 years as Human Resources Director at Great Plains has opened 2 new plants in Abilene and Salina, increasing their workforce from 800 positions to 2,300 positions. Amy is a certified master coach and has over 25 years experience as a vice president and strategic HR leader in entrepreneurial, mid-size, and Fortune 500 corporations. Her passion is developing future leaders and enhancing performance of current leaders. Amy has coached over 200 executives in transitioning to new roles and has increased their influence, visibility, and effectiveness in their current role. Her education includes Stanford Graduate School of Business, Human Resources Executive Program at Wichita State University, and an Executive Master's in Business Administration, and she has served as a diversity course content advisor at Cornell University. Please help me welcome Amy.
When I graduated from college, this is how I saw my life. Blue skies, slow, steady, consistent growth. This is how my life turned out. Not exactly as I planned, but it was a whole lot of fun, and I've learned a lot. One of the first mentors that I had was when I earned my first human resource leadership position. The chairman of the board called me into his office, and he said, "Amy, you know, I've decided I like you. So I'm going to tell you everything I hate about HR people." And he said, "We're growing fast. We had 7 mergers and acquisitions in 2 years." He said, "I need you to make decisions that are good for the employees, that are good for our company, and if the community found out about them, they'd want to work with us." He said, "Then you try to do everything at the A level. You know, that cactus, it's strong and sturdy." He said, "I dare you to do some things at the B level that won't impact the employees or the business, and I dare you to be average. There are things that you just require average work, and it's not going to impact the employees here. And then think about what can you stop doing that no longer adds value. You're doing it because it's a habit, so that you can free yourself up to do more valuable work." One of the things that I've learned throughout my career is to look for companies that provide mentoring programs, supervisory training, and that will invest in your background, in your experience as you develop your leadership style with succession planning. Your life will probably be like mine. I've had some tremendous managers whose leadership style is on the left-hand side of the screen. I've also had some challenging managers who they were the boss, and their behavior was on the right-hand side of the screen. As leaders, as you work to find your voice throughout your career, you're going to have an opportunity to work for both. You may at times be both. And think about what can you learn from each one, and how can you use that information to mold and blend and shape your leadership style. I graduated from college very much an introvert. I had a horrible fear of failure. This book really spoke to me. It taught me that if you're not failing, if you're not stretching out of your comfort zone, you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not changing. My very first position out of college, I was laid off. And I'm in HR. I laid off myself. I put my own name on the layoff list. It's a humbling thing to do at 22. But what it taught me was compassion. And when I lived through the recession and I was in the position of having to lay off others, I could look them in the eye and say, "I've been in your shoes. Today is a horrible day. This isn't your future. This day does not define you. and you will find the right job, and you're going to flourish and grow, and you're going to be wonderful. And they told me, and many of them called me and said, you're right, you let me leave with hope, and I did find the perfect job for me. Thank you. I also worked for organizations where we were going through a significant culture change, and our CEO said, I dare you to fail. For every leadership meeting, we had the person who had the greatest success for that month stand up and share their success, and everyone applauded. And then we had the most audacious failure, have that person stand up and share that, and how it was just awful, but what they learned from it, and we all applauded. And then we worked in small groups to brainstorm and give him or her tools to go back and try again. And they left with support, with new information, and we all rallied together to support them. That's failing forward. That's success. There was numerous times in my career where I selected companies with the wrong culture fit. You may have experienced the same thing. And what I learned is always do your best. Leave that company better than you found it, and do your part to positively influence them. Great Plains is a Kansas-based company. I'm very proud to be part of Kansas. We're located in 8 communities, and we have deep roots in manufacturing. 80% of our workforce work in plants. And as we talk about finding our voice and giving voice to employees who may not have visibility with the organization, these are our people. So my team focuses on how can we be the voice for the employees of Great Plains? And we have to do that by listening. Now, one of the other speakers mentioned we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that. So you have to listen. We focus on being curious before judging and asking the employees why. What do you need? How can we help you? Why does that make a difference? Why is that important to you? And if you're going to serve as the voice of your employees, it's helpful to build trusting relationships, not only with the leadership team, but with the employees that you're serving. Shaking their hands, looking them in the eyes, smiling, listening, caring about them, and taking good care of your reputation. Every time we go into a plant, we represent the company. We represent caring. We represent the commitment to our taking care of our people. And as long as we're honest and fair, we have a good reputation. One wrong move, our reputation is over, and we have to rebuild it. It's the most important thing we have. I've also learned to listen to the criticism that employees give me. And I've had an employee tell me, you know, that last performance appraisal form you created, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. They said, but the good news is, you've been here 2 years. I figure pretty soon you'll leave. They'll hire another one. She'll look just like you. I'll see if I like her form any better than yours. I asked him to sit down and talk to me, and he went, you want to talk to me? I said, yes. So tell me, what's going on? What's wrong? And his coworkers all sat down too, because they're like, oh, what's she going to say? And as he explained his concerns, his coworkers responded, and I listened, and I learned, and I was able to serve them better after getting that feedback. And if you're in a position to be the voice for your employees, always remember to speak with facts and benefits. I can't do this, but I can help you this way. How can I help you? I try never to say no, but offer options and to give them a voice when we're talking through programs within our organization. This is my team. We work together to give all of our employees a voice every day, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We have stay interviews with each employee after their first 30 days to find out how's it going. Have you been welcomed? Do you feel like you're part of the family? Are you getting trained? We sit with our plant managers and have skip-level meetings so they can hear the employees and listen to their questions and answer those. So the employees feel like they're part of the community and they have a voice. We also have developed our employees with different programs, but most importantly, we make sure we have fun. We spend our time giving to others, and we need to refill our buckets. And as leaders, we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. It's important for us to remember to stay teachable. When I worked at Koch Industries, they had a culture of humility. You were admired for admitting what you didn't know. And Mr. Koch believed if you're the smartest person in the room, you have a really hard time learning from others. I was a single mom for 20 years for 2 incredible boys. I wanted to go back to school. I needed to put that dream on hold, so when my boys went to college, so did I. We all graduated a year apart. And we talk about work-life balance, having that be the voice for our employees. It's also the voice for you as leaders. As a single mom who is balancing work and school, my proudest moment is when my oldest son was going to his high school graduation, and he said, "Mom, you were always there for me. You attended every single event. I always knew I had your support." That caring for your family, that giving your family a voice is as important as you're giving your children a voice. And there's no promotion in the world that equals the support and the care of the families. So my closing thoughts are, if you're giving people a voice, remember, it's all about the people. They're what really matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That was wonderful. Our next speaker is the Reverend Shay Craig. The Very Reverend Canon Shay Craig is the 19th Dean of Christ Episcopal Cathedral in Salina and is the first female dean. Before joining the cathedral staff in January 2023, she was vicar of St. Michael's and Andrews in Hays, Kansas, and previous to that was the development officer for the Episcopal Diocese of Chicago. Raised in Northern California, Shay is a naturalized citizen of Chicago, but has definitely come home to Kansas, where her family has owned a cattle ranch for more than 100 years. Shay holds a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of Illinois, Urbana, and a Master's of Theological Studies from Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary. She has a lot of long words in her bio, I'm sorry. She and her husband, John Houston, have a blended family of 5 cats and 3 dogs. Please help me welcome Shay.
See, it's a tongue twister without any Hebrew or Greek. So who in this room is familiar with the Harry Potter series? Can I see some hands? Okay, is there anybody who's not familiar with Harry Potter? Okay, for y'all, I'm gonna do some explaining. Growing up in his aunt and uncle's home, Harry Potter had a bedroom in a cupboard under the stairs. He ate leftovers, he wore hand-me-downs, he had to tape his glasses together right here. Then one day when he's 11, a man appears and tells him that all along he's been a wizard. He can do magic. And there's a whole universe he's never imagined out there of people who are just like him. You know what Harry says? Not me, I'm just Harry. This man, Hagrid, asks him, haven't you ever thought there was something special about you? Haven't you ever been able to do things that other people couldn't do? And the truth slowly dawns on Harry. He didn't belong under the stairs. He didn't need to eat leftovers. He didn't have to wear hand-me-downs. And he always kind of knew he was magical. But the Dursleys, his aunt and uncle, had convinced him that he was not. Our topic for this evening has been finding your voice, and we have heard such compelling stories tonight. But I would like to talk to you about something that keeps us from finding our voice, something that keeps us silent. I'd like to talk to you about the imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a psychological condition in which we experience deep and pervasive self-doubt. Regardless of what we accomplish, regardless of our successes and our victories, regardless of anything we are doing in our lives, imposter syndrome convinces us that if anybody knew the real truth about us, we would lose it all. Deep down, we feel like an imposter, like a fraud. Now, imposter syndrome is a real psychological condition, and I'm about to butcher it for you in a few minutes. If you're really interested in imposter syndrome, please Google it. Not right now. Or, better idea, take a psych class. Now, imposter syndrome happens to everyone. Every single person in this room has experienced imposter syndrome at least once in their life. Remember that first day of freshman year when you stepped out onto the campus with your new backpack and your fresh Yotes lanyard, and you threw your shoulders back and you confidently walked to your first class, all the time thinking and praying under your breath, if they knew where the heck they were going. I don't have any idea where I'm going, and I hope nobody knows, and I hope nobody can see how scared I am. That was imposter syndrome. The voice in our head that says, I am not competent to achieve, I do not deserve, I only look good right now because people don't know the truth about me. That's the imposter syndrome. Everyone feels it. But here's an interesting statistic. In a recent study of 750 high-performing executive women, 75% of them reported having experienced imposter syndrome at certain points in their career. 3 out of 4 women in executive leadership experience imposter syndrome. 1 in 4 men do. So it is, I am afraid, a female-dominated field. Now, nobody is born with imposter syndrome. No, imposter syndrome is a learned behavior. Our culture teaches us low self-esteem and shame. Our society teaches us to think, I'm just hairy. When women are paid 86 cents every time a man makes $1, we learn that our work is not as valuable. When 80% of women experience sexual harassment in the workplace, we learn to adapt to being physically and emotionally disrespected. When female-presenting students scoot over so that male-presenting students can spread out, we learn that we don't even deserve space. I'm a priest in the Episcopal Church. Christ Cathedral, where I work today, is the largest and most successful Episcopal church in our diocese that extends all the way to the border of Colorado. I was the first female clergy to be called to the staff of the cathedral in 2018, and last year I became the first dean, that is the senior executive of a cathedral. Fewer than 20% of deans of cathedrals are women. After my bishop, I am the senior clergy in this diocese. I am the Very Reverend Canon Shay Craig, 19th Dean of Christ Episcopal Cathedral. And every single week, I am told, women can't manage complex financial systems, because math. Women, right? Women can't manage a staff because they're conflict avoidant. Many of you already know I'm not conflict avoidant. Women should not be priests because, I don't know, X chromosomes? I have in the last year been called a heretic, a harlot, a witch spelled another way, if you know what I mean, and my personal favorite, an abomination. If I let those messages lie to me, I would never believe in myself and I would never be who and what I am now. So how do we overcome imposter syndrome? How do we get from just Harry to the chosen one? Here's what I do, and I want you to know that I really do this. When I hear that voice in my head that wants to put me in the cupboard again, I think to myself, that's the Dursleys in my life talking. And then I say, sometimes out loud, sometimes very loud, I am a wizard. You guys, I do this. As many times as I need to, as loud as I need to. I am a wizard. I'm a wizard. Now, Harry found his voice because someone he respected looked him in the eye and said, It is the Dursleys who are imposters. Just in case you need it, it would be my privilege to be your Hagrid tonight and look you in the eye and say, you are magical. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not, especially yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Craig. That was wonderful. Okay, up next we have Claire Ludis. Claire is the Executive Director of the Salina Area United Way. She has been in this role for 4 years. She has led the organization to return to funded partners for the community, and most recently took over leading the Child Care Initiative for Saline County. Prior to the Salina Area United Way, she worked as the Mobility Director at OCCK Transportation and helped start the first ever rural bike sharing program across north central Kansas. She received a bachelor's in general studies with a minor in business and psychology. She is married to her husband, John, and has 2 children, Grayson and Bo. In her free time, she enjoys traveling, being outdoors, and watching her oldest son participate in sports. Please help me welcome Claire.
Thank you. So, as my staff will quickly tell you, I don't normally write out any type of plan when I'm going to talk. And until now, I've usually been okay. So I'm going to apologize now because I'm going to stumble and fumble because I actually wrote some things out. So, here we go. I started out my career right out of college as a sales rep for an IT and safety company in Wichita, Kansas. I got married very young and had my son fairly early. I quickly became aware that I was going to have to choose between my child and a career. I was working 2 days in the office, traveling and visiting my sales clients, and then the other 3 I was working from home. I got called into my manager's office, and he said, the owners of the company want you to choose. You need to choose if you want to be in the office full-time or if you want to stay home with your son. Now, being a brand new mother at that time, I quickly chose my child because, as I'm sure a lot of us mothers have felt, my child can't talk to me. He can't tell me if something is wrong if he goes to daycare, and how could I ever do that to him? And so I quickly stepped away and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to choose my child. Now, my husband at the time quickly said, you can't do that. We can't afford to live on one salary. You're going to have to get another job. And so I quickly realized that choosing my child over my career in a field where men primarily ran it was something I was going to have to be careful of. And so as I moved into my next role as district manager of a large retail company that spanned across Wichita with 13 stores and about 70 employees that I managed, I put my child and my family on a lower pedestal. The manager of that company quickly told me many things that a lot of you have heard from these other women this evening, that you're not doing that right. I wouldn't do it that way. What were you thinking when you made that decision? And I quickly realized that if I ever have the opportunity to lead an organization as the actual leader and CEO, not just as a manager, that I would not treat my staff or encourage my staff the way that I have been treated in the past 2 jobs. And so an opportunity came about, and we moved here to Salina. And I quickly got a job in the nonprofit world. I'd never worked in the nonprofit, I had only worked for profit, and so it was a little bit of a change for me. But I dove in, began meeting a lot of incredible people in this community, and quickly realized that between the flexibility that OCCK gave me of not being afraid when my child was sick to have to be home that day, and then being able to go back and continue doing that, this was okay and we would be okay. Then a few years later, an opportunity came about to be the executive director of United Way. I wasn't completely certain if I could take on that role. I had heard a lot of things about where United Way was, in the community, and so I took some time to speak with a few individuals, and they quickly told me that if I really put my heart to it, that I could turn the United Way around to what it used to be for the community. And so I jumped into that role and said, okay. Well, not long after I took that, we had a national pandemic. COVID happened, and I thought to myself, I'm now in an organization where a lot of change and struggles are happening, and now I have to figure out how to manage that. Not to mention that because of COVID, my husband and I at the time made the choice to separate and divorce at that time. So not only was I in a job that took a lot of building new relationships and fixing things that unfortunately had been broken, I was also going through a divorce at that time and the pandemic. Once things started to change, I realized that, okay, I started a COVID relief fund and started helping our organizations in the community that I could turn United Way around. There are two people in this room that I want to talk and recognize tonight that made that happen. One of them you've heard from already, Angie Lastly, and the others in the back of this room, Lori Blake. These two individuals took me under their wing, and truly believed that I could turn United Way around. They jumped headfirst in with me at their organizations and knew that I could make a difference. And from that, we chose to return to funded partners. And the rest of the agencies that had been original funded partners came around me as well and knew that as a community, as a nonprofit community, that we are stronger together. United Way and all of our agencies can make a difference when we all work together. You've heard that from many speakers already. And so they linked arms with me along with people like Amanda Otto, who's also in this room, and believed that United Way could be what it was once again. We then got the opportunity to take on childcare at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. I knew it was a complex issue, and I knew that it had already impacted me personally. And so as I took on this challenge, I thought, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna change childcare in Saline County? And so many things have already happened, but there have been key things that have been said to me that, again, just make me realize why us as women, our voice truly matters. If moms and grandmas would just do the job that they're supposed to do, we wouldn't have a child care problem. That was one of the first things that was said to me when I took on this child care crisis. And you know what? It fueled my fire. Because our job is not only to be moms and grandmas, our job is to be whatever we want it to be. And we truly, as women, deserve to have that choice. Whether we want to stay at home with our children and be the best moms that we can be, or we want to move forward in our careers and still be the best moms that we can be. I walk into rooms these days and I see heavy sighs from men as I'm here again to advocate for all of us here in this room and for our most prized possessions, our children, who deserve quality and safe child care. But that's okay. The heavy sighs mean that I'm making a difference, and all of you deserve to have that guidance behind us all too. Don't let anyone define you because you're a female, because you're a mother. You can have it all. You can be a working mom, you can be a stay-at-home mom, but just know that your voice matters, and we are stronger all together, and we can continue to advocate and lift each other up and know that at the end of the day, united, we can all make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. That was wonderful too. These are just amazing. Okay, we are down to our last speaker of the evening, the wonderful Mrs. Annie Boswell. Annie has been a part of the KWU PAC as a full-time volunteer for campus ministries at Kansas Wesleyan since 2013. Annie has been our Women's Life Group leader since 2014, teaches Bible study to our young women on campus. She also mentors and disciples students one-on-one, helping women navigate challenges and or deepening their faith during their times at Kansas Wesleyan. Annie has been an avid ambassador, campus and community liaison for her Hispanic and Latin American students. She helps bridge the cultural gaps as well as make sure our students feel advocated for and welcomed in both our campus and in our community. Annie is the team chaplain for the College of Nursing, softball, and women's volleyball teams. Partnering with faculty and coaching staff, she provides spiritual and emotional support for our students and athletes. Over the last 11 years, Annie and her family have hosted a multitude of Kansas Wesleyan students, opening the doors of their home and family, making our young coyotes feel at home, enriching their journeys at Kansas Wesleyan. Annie is also the owner and director of He Said Ministry House across from the campus, a house solely devoted to ministry in many forms with students, faculty, and staff. Please welcome Annie Boswell.
Well, I don't know how to follow that, but Reverend Shea just told me to not have imposter syndrome, so thank you for that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand inspired and in complete awe of the amazing women that have spoken before me. I want to thank Michelle Case for the opportunity to be a speaker tonight. This is a true privilege. Thank you. As a full-time volunteer for Kansas Wesleyan University, with a passion to mentor young women, both in Christian faith and in life, my biggest tool for ministry is my ability to offer a safe, intergenerational space for women where they can be vulnerable. See, the world demands strength and high performance from the women I mentor. The danger with living under this umbrella for too long is it too often results in perfectionism, which likely will lead to disconnection and a sense of not being good enough. And it will not only rob, steal, and kill the joy and the authenticity in the journeys of the women I work with, but it also creates an environment where we are more focused on fitting in to the expectations of this world than in belonging to the calling that has been set by our Creator. Vulnerability invites authenticity, connection, and empathy to sit at the table, and it is there where my work begins at Kansas Wesleyan. But for me to offer a vulnerable space, I myself have to be open and brave to be vulnerable as well. For me, the best source of empathy and vulnerability, my past and present brokenness. It sounds odd, I know. But see, in the world, the moments that are celebrated, recognized, and rewarded are our triumphs and our victories. But in the world of Christ, things work very differently. And we do our best work empowered by humility and equipped by the Holy Spirit when we are on our knees, willing to be vulnerable to Christ. Because it is then when we are the most teachable. So my past, present, and future brokenness are like shards of glass. On their own, they are easily mistaken as unusable tools, as ordinary waste that needs to be dealt with and discarded. But in the hands of Christ, represented as a kaleidoscope, brokenness is turned into resilience, wisdom, grace, mercy, compassion, connection, and kindness. Brokenness redeemed, then, becomes a vector to show God's light. You are never more empowered as a Christian leader or a student than when we embrace our weakness and brokenness as the beginning of God's sovereignty in our lives. It's hard to describe my role at Kansas Wesleyan, so I will revert to Scripture to help me. It is beautifully explained by the Hebrew words that were used by God Himself to describe the first woman He ever created, Eve. When God described woman for the first time in history, He used the words eser kenegdo, which translate into a helper suitable. I know that for many, this may sound unimpressive, subservient, maybe even secondary to someone else. But what if I told you that Ezer, helper, is the same word that God uses to describe himself as a helper to his people? See, Ezer Kenegdo is a powerful word. And Ezer, in God's eyes, helps, aids, and strengthens someone in a way they cannot do for themselves in a specific moment. To all of my Ezer women of God in this room, leave today knowing that the name that God chose for woman would be a term of strength, of power, of honor, a name God would choose to describe himself. This is the core of my ministry on campus, my daily objective, my biggest mission. Through my work with women of all ages, I want to make sure that these amazing Ezer women know that from the beginning of creation, women not only have a place in the room, you have an invitation to the table in Christ's kingdom. That is power. That is our true identity. If Kansas Wesleyan was a marathon race, me and all the Ezer Kenegdos, all the volunteers that work with campus ministries, would not be the runners, we would not be the organizers, we would not be the sponsors of the race. There is no medal we would receive, and some may even think we have no real contribution to this race. We're just here. Our team of Ezers have a very simple and yet powerful role to play in the race of faculty, staff, and students. We are the aid stations along the race. We will not run the race for the runners, nor cross the finish line for them. We are there to aid, help, and strengthen them in their most vulnerable moments during the race. Our help may seem small to the world, but to the person who is running, our role becomes vital and extraordinary. Last Friday, March 22nd, Jasmine Perez became the first woman to complete the Barkley Marathons, an extreme foot race that requires participants in rural Tennessee to navigate 100 miles of rugged terrain in no more than 60 hours. This race has been called the race that eats its young. See, some may say that this sounds a little like college, a lot like adulting, right? Jasmine finished the race with 1 minute and 39 seconds to spare. These are the images when Jasmine made history. These are also only some of the images that show the moments when every athlete, every person, no matter how experienced, how prepared, starts doubting if they are fit to finish the race they were meant to run. See, I see similar doubts in the many meetings that I have with faculty, with students, with coaches, with athletes that I serve and that I love. These images are the power that comes with the area of the servant leadership that I represent. In every picture, you can feel the power of ordinary people that come in to help, aid, and strengthen others in times when they needed the most, with the sole purpose of making sure they run and they finish the race. This is at the core why I do and how I do it. This is how I pay it forward. The work as an Ezer Kenegdo is not often glamorous. It is easy to feel sometimes invisible, and many times you are left feeling like the aid station in this picture after a race. Which is why part of my mission is to change the mentality of how institutions and teams view volunteers. We are not secondary citizens. We are part of the heartbeat of the places and the teams we work with, and we deserve a seat of respect at their table. I hope that by helping mentor future incredible Coyote leaders, that they can be a part of this paradigm change. I want to close by sharing the message I instill in all the women that I mentor, love, and serve. First and foremost, God loves you, and He is always pursuing your heart. There isn't a biggest champion for women than Christ Himself. Jesus protected women, empowered women, honored the voice of women, confided in women, was funded by women, celebrated women by name, learned from women, respected women, and spoke of women as examples to follow. Second, strong women empower other women, and they build them up. Iron sharpens iron. Let me share a visual to close. Female elephants in the wild do a circle formation looking outward to protect a female elephant in the center, whether because she is giving birth, she is sick, or she is injured. And thus, she is vulnerable to predators. Women of God, Ezer Kenegdos, may our strengths as Ezer women not only empower, inspire, and propel other women to soar, but may we not ever hesitate to create circles that protect, rebuild, restore, and help heal those who are lost and vulnerable so they can run their race and live out the calling for which they were created, because their voice matters. Thank you very much.
Okay, holy cow, what a great evening. Let's hear it one more time for our speakers. Oh my goodness, fabulous, just fabulous. Whew. Okay, before you leave, I have just a few announcements. The first one is from the Smoky Hill Museum upcoming exhibit about step up to the task very quickly. There have been people who have been challenged the usual way who've challenged the way of doing things as we've always done them. For women in the early and mid-20th century, this meant looking for jobs outside of their homes in a society where men were mostly in charge. Brave women pursued careers. It even took more courage to pursue a profession dominated by men. Women who pushed against the norm often found themselves experiencing discrimination. Some of these trailblazers played a crucial role in paving the way of progress. In Salina, it's just like other communities. There are shining examples of women who made waves, opened doors, and broke through glass ceilings. So they have an event coming up that will highlight 6 different women: Lieutenant Doretha Lafette, Representative Cora Walker-Shelton, Amy Rasher, Irene Nelson Carlson, Bessie Alice Caldwell, and Mary Virginia Jenny Zook-Bevan. In addition to these 6, there will be a Salina Women's Hall of Fame. So come and join them to meet these women who emboldened strides, opening pathways for future women, and inspired our community at the Smoky Hill Museum new exhibit. It opens April 12th. And they would like to thank their sponsors, Kansas Wesleyan University, Next Tech, and a sponsorship in memory of Doris Ann Breingar. The second announcement is the Women in Achievement will be held this fall on November 7th. Save the date. Nominations are now open, so think about who you want to nominate. Our annual 4th Women in Leadership will be on March 27th, 2025, so please save the date. And as you leave, you'll be getting a swag bag, and in the swag bag, there's a QR code to fill our survey out. Please do that. We really appreciate your feedback. Thank you all for coming this evening. I hope you all have a wonderful Easter, and row yotes. Thank you.